welcome back. To close this morning with a practical insight, the INOS consortium has decided to organize a poster session. Beside the construction of pedagogical tools and best practices, we are going to talk about that this afternoon. One of the major challenges of the INOS project was to confront these tools to the field. And this has taken concrete form, in particular through an action research phase carried out over the year 2020 and 2021. So during this year, 9 open innovation activities and 10 open knowledge activities were carried out, evaluated within the framework of the project. I'm not going to be too long, but just to clarify what is meant by open knowledge activities and open innovation activities, the consortium defined open knowledge activities as bottom-up technology mediated open knowledge building activities that higher education institutions co-create together with students and external stakeholders, with the objectives to engage a wider public for social and community purposes. We've just talked about that, and to encourage active citizenship. And by open innovation activities, we mean like open innovation activities or bring together academic staff, students from different disciplines to engage them in the transformation of knowledge to innovative solutions, mainly by addressing a technical challenge or a social problem. So just before starting the session, a last remark. This period of experimentation and practice was largely marked by the sanitary crisis, as you noticed with the year 2020-2021. So most of the activities were conducted online, or sometimes with luck in hybrid format. So these constraints allowed us to experiment with new tools and practices. And this is therefore, with regard to this context, that 7 of the most relevant open innovation activities and 5 open knowledge activities will be presented. So as you can see on the screen, 5 representatives of 5 institutions of the INOS consortium will follow one another to present these activities to you. In a descriptive way first, but also by highlighting the main impacts. With the objective, hopefully, to inspire you. So before giving the floor to my colleagues, I will move on the presentation of 3 practical cases that were carried out at the University of Bordeaux. So just first of all, a few words on the context. The University of Bordeaux is a large multidisciplinary university. And for us, 2020 and 2021 was a year of transition, environmental and societal transition. We obtained some structuring project fundings. And actually, we've built a roadmap. We've mentioned the importance of participatory science, as we used to call it in France. Yves Duc mentioned that before during the evening. So for us, it implies a challenge-based way, I would say an interdisciplinary way to think about projects implementation. The roadmap on open science has just been drawn and is operationalizing by the library department. And since 2020, our university is also engaged in a global and participative reflection with its communities to open up itself to society and to develop open science, notably by creating, and it's important, the condition of the emergence of citizen science projects. So I'll just give you some of the ideas which emerged during the workshop. So the modernize the scientific mediation, but also create some intermediate spaces, some learning spaces, I would say now, and to capitalize also on citizen needs and acculturate to participations. So here, the INOS projects I will present are the fruits of this context of experimentation, led notably by my department, the innovation department. But also the INOS project has this impact on us that we've created a working group within my university with the library department, the Fab Lab, some teachers and researchers to experiment some activities. So we have 4 innovative projects, but I will present only 3. The first one is open knowledge activity, which benefited from supports from the project itself. I mean, evaluation tools, impact tools, and from the experience of our department in engagement. And this project called Edit-à-thon was led by the library department of the University of Bordeaux. I know there are a lot of librarians in the audience. So the Edit-à-thon, my thesis in Wikipedia, it was a multidisciplinary project of collaboration between PhD students and civic society. It's not a new concept. It's inspired from an Edit-à-thon concept. You can find the page on Wikipedia. And it takes the form of discussion-based learning projects, which was built in 2 phases, one-to-one preparatory meeting. Each student meant an expert. During this preparatory meeting, participants were invited to train and to practice Wikipedia with the mentorship of an expert, and to write down their questions or difficulties. And these questions were the primary material for the exchanges during the morning of the Edit-à-thon. And there were a second phase, a plenary meeting, between PhD students, the civic society, with an association called the Wikipedians, and the expert from the librarian department. This session was dedicated to the creation of new pages or new contribution to existing ones, with the perspective of the thesis or the research work of the PhD students. So a large time during this meeting was dedicated to discussions, to feedback, and it was in order to encourage horizontality between the disciplines. And according to the librarian in charge of the project, to identify the impact, Wikipedia implies production of source information and training in scientific integrity science. So the experimentation of this activity was an occasion to debunk prejudices about Wikipedia first, but also to evaluate the potential of impacts of such an activity and to challenge it, notably the way to engage scientists on one hand and citizens on the other hand. So for us, for these activities, the next steps will be to integrate Wikipedia, and that's a big challenge, to integrate Wikipedia contribution to university courses, for example, with voluntary teachers, and to initiate other thematics. The second activity I would like to talk about is Ocean I3. It's an open innovation activities in the field of education, employability, initiated in 2018, in which students and teaching staff from the University of the Basque Country and the University of Bordeaux participate. The 3I refers in the Basque language to the 3 axes that are combined in the Ocean I3 model: learning, research, and sustainability. So Ocean I3 operates in the Euskadi, Nouvelle-Aquitaine cross-border coastal area, And thanks to an actor, the campus, the EUSH Campus Strategic Alliance, which is an inter-university cross-border interdisciplinary project that develops an innovative training approach with a really important territorial engagement. So it is also in this sense that Ocean I3 activates and valorizes competencies, skills related to intercultural and multilingual reality of this cross-border territory. So the target audience for these projects is undergraduate and postgraduate students. It's an extracurricular activity for the moment. So at both university, and it's open really to all disciplinary field, because the entry of the activity is the challenge. It's a challenge-based learning activity. So there's also a research-based learning approach, because the main objective is to produce knowledge oriented to real challenges, and to refer to problems which occur in the field of the blue economy of this territory, I mean the cross-border coastline. And the objective is also to develop and train skills to improve the employability of university students. So as I said before, the project is also built on a challenge-based methodology with cases given by social agents. And this methodology includes 5 workshops within 1 semester. And leave the floor to my colleagues. So just to finish about Ocean I3, as I said, so the main impacts, I will conclude with the main impacts. So Ocean I3 forms, as I said, an extended project community with teachers, students, and social agents. And that has real impacts on the territory. And it has to be noted that the project is recognized as an example of education on sustainability. And a lot of work is now done to transfer the methodology and the experience of the project to the whole institution by integrating the project into curricula. And finally, one last slide, a short slide, just to conclude my presentation with a hackathon led by the innovation department as an original and experimental event, but not the format. We used to know the format of hackathon, but this activity was the original one for us, because we have 2 main particularities, the integration of all the university communities, I mean academic, administrative staff, and students, and who were reunited to create solutions with the mentorship of external partners, experts in environmental transition. And the second particularity is the involvement of an interdisciplinary group of scientists to build a presentation used as an immersive and original way to problematize the challenge. So the main impacts of this activity were the empowerment of an active community and the proof of concept of a methodology to transfer within the university. And that with regards to the political objective and to our structuring programs. So to conclude, I would say that these 3 initiatives participated to an experimentation conducted by the University of Bordeaux, as I said, as an introduction, because we have these conditions now, and these conditions are the way to acculturate our communities to innovation. And as a catalyst, we are a catalyst, the innovation department. Our role is to act as a community builder by extending the network to land experimental projects. This is one of the main issues, and I have to say that the INOS project is really useful for us, because it allows us to enrich this expertise of methodology and the way to transfer these methodologies to our internal communities, and finally to acculturate the communities to new paradigms. So and with the challenge to put university at the heart of the societal challenges. So that's it for me. I will stop sharing my screen. I'll leave the floor to Asuza, and thanks very much. And again, sorry for the dysfunctional, and I hope you didn't miss too much of my presentation. Asuza?
Yes, I'll share my screen. Thanks, Helen, for the wonderful presentation. Can you see my, wait a moment. It's coming. Can you see my slide and hear my voice?
Yes.
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 Okay, yes. I hope the participants are stay tuned, but thank you for this opportunity. I'm Azusa Nakata from University of Oulu, and I'm working in this INOS project with my colleague Essi Bopala. But in this morning session, I will present what we did, what kind of activities we did in this INOS project. So before that, let me briefly introduce us. So we are from University of Oulu, which is located in Finland, like North Finland. It's very north, so just 200 kilometers away from the Arctic Circle. So we can see the northern lights just from the balcony of our house. So it's very north. Then we have approximately 14,000 students, and we have 10 faculties and 45 programs, including international study programs. Then particularly, we are from LET Research Unit. The acronym is Learning and Educational Technology Research Unit, led by Professor Sanne Järvelä. So actually, within this INOS Partners Consortium, we are kind of, we are not really familiar with open science or citizen science principles. It's quite new to us, but instead we are experts of learning. So like our research focus is how people learn and how we can facilitate the cognitive process and how we can facilitate the collaboration between learners and how we can incorporate technology into this collaborative learning. So we are contributing this in this project from that learning perspective. Then we conducted 5 open knowledge activities and open innovation activities, but today I selected two activities, one for open knowledge activities and one for open innovation activity. So the first case is called Rover Adventure. It was conducted in 2020, April 28th, so it's almost 2 years ago. Then the event was a 3-hour duration event. Then the organizers are higher education students. So actually we utilize this INOS project activity in the study program of master's, international master's study program. So we collaborated, so higher education international students learning in the master's degree program in education collaborated with Finnish local school and the classroom teacher of 4th grade students. So they co-designed the learning activities. Then they conducted a 3-hour event. So the place was the Finnish local school and also the Fab Learn Love environment, which is located within the local school. The participation mode was face-to-face, fortunately, even though it was happening in the pandemic occasion. So basically, this higher education master's degree student designed the STEAM education class activities as a part of their master's study course, which is called EdTech project. And the event engaged fourth grade students and also their parents as a public participants. So they utilized the tools in makerspace, Fab Lab environment, and then they did some tasks which was given by the organizers. So the main results and insights, I picked up several main insights. And first, the higher education students and other organizers gained the insights about open science and citizen science, because as I mentioned, it was quite new area to us. So through this INOS related activities, the higher education students could learn the concept of open science and open knowledge activities. And the students, fourth grade students, together with their parents, engaged in learning experience through the collaborative learning approach, and also in the Fab Lab makerspace environment. So it was also, especially for their parents, it was new to them. So to me, the good thing was that parents, the PP's parents, could learn new digital skills and a new learning approach through their pupils. So it was a nice experience, I think. And also we applied the gamified collaborative learning approach. So it was not like just a traditional lecture, but the pupils learned kind of content knowledge through the innovative approach. So it was very successful. Then also the organizers, higher education students, could utilize what they have learned in the study, which means the theory of, for example, learning, or like how people learn. They could utilize those theories into practice. So it provoked their, how can I say? It facilitated their, they could utilize what they have learned actually. So it was a good experience for them. And also organizers, higher education students and pupils could utilize some digital tools and makerspace. So some people have no experiences in utilizing this environment. So it was also new to them. And lastly, it could empower active citizenship skills or mindsets by cultivating their abilities to use different tools and resources, and also the skills to collaborate with other people or external people. Then the second case is the open innovation activity called Spirit. So it was happened in 2020, November 26. So it's almost 1.5 years ago. It was also a 3-hour event, but the participation mode was completely online. Then the organizers are, again, higher education students from the same master's degree program, but different students. So we embedded these small activities into master's degrees study program. So, but different students was engaged in different activities. So this was also designed by higher education teachers, but also students. Then the description is, so the higher education students designed the this 3-hour event, which invite the anyone who is interested in like education or future education, and also alumni. So the graduated students from our study program. So we, the organizer provided some problems or issues in general. Then the participants had a discussion to how to solve these tasks with the education or future education. So it was just a 3-hour event, so it didn't produce any kind of real solution, but it's more like a trigger of the discussion between higher education students and alumni and other public participants. So the main results, the participants' main interest to this event was the future education and also how to utilize technology in the education, and also like they are mostly from our learning and educational technology program related people, so they have common interest from the beginning, and also they are happy to be part of this community. So it was kind of good opportunity to link these people who are having similar interests and similar like goals in the future. And so then also the participants are very diverse in terms of nationality. So because of or owing to this online participation mode, the people from different countries could join the session. So there are more than 10 nationalities in the event. And also they have different backgrounds. For example, some of them are working in the educational edtech companies, or some of them are working in the public department or public organization. So the people who are from different backgrounds could bring their opinions into the discussion. So it was a good opportunities. And also the link created, a link between the higher education students and alumni people, and also public people who attended this discussion. The link between them was really impactful in the long term. Even though the event was very short, they could utilize this connection for the future collaboration. So it was a good outcome of this event. However, there are some challenges reported by the participants. So for example, this open innovation activity maybe require more time or a pre-activity to kind of set the icebreak session between the participants, or get the common knowledge on the topic beforehand. And also some facilitation was needed. So some participants pointed out it was too open discussion. So this was like what we have learned from this event. So we need some kind of structure and ample time and also structured, how can I say? Yeah, maybe like a long-term, well-structured sorry, yes, structure is, I think, important. What we have done is like this. So from us, this is it. So maybe I can give the floor to the next presenter, who is, I will stop sharing. Wait a moment. Yes.
The next presenter is Tatiana Yankelevich from Liber Europe. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Allow me just a second to share my screen. And while I am preparing, I hope you can see my screen right now. Full screen. I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that we have a live tweet going on as well at the moment. So if you have any questions, if you want to respond to our tweets, please feel free to engage. I think that's a fantastic way of doing things online. That's one thing we learned during the pandemic. It's engagement is important. It's difficult to do it online, but Twitter is one tool that helps us do it. So please go ahead. There's a link in the chat posted by Rosie Ellison, our colleague, to follow the tweets. And before I start with the presentation of the specific activities that we did, I wanted to point your attention to the fact that LIBER, as the European Association of Research Libraries, had a slightly different view on the activities that we wanted to undertake. And ours were open knowledge activities focused on, raising awareness of open science practices, increasing the knowledge base of participants on open science and open innovation, and kind of spiking the interest of actually getting to doing things. And of course, our target audience for most of the activities were librarians, and that definition varies across different countries, but basically anyone and everyone in the hierarchy of library was who was willing to join the activities, students and university staff as well. But students, as opposed to many other activities, were not the primary target, because what we wanted to achieve is we wanted to make sure the university and library structure is ready and interested in approaching citizen science in one way or another. So we had 4 different activities, and we divided them into 2 categories, and we followed 2 different methodologies. Unfortunately, we couldn't do anything offline, in person, which of course is always much more fun. So we had to think a bit more creatively with the restraints of the COVID-19 pandemic of how can we spike the interest of thinking and doing in our participants through the online format. So we chose one format where we presented the information through several lectures by participants of the Citizen Science Working Group that we have at LIBER. So these would be researchers and librarians from across Europe, different universities and research libraries in Europe, presenting their experience with citizen science, and the lessons learned and the way forward in many different ways. And what we wanted to do is have that as the basis, as the ground to spike the interest and understanding of what citizen science is and how to get involved. And we followed that up with a practical exercise where we broke down the participants into several small groups and offered them an opportunity to ask questions and prepare a presentation of a project. So we wanted essentially them to think of a project of citizen science project ideas that they would be interested in participating and implementing in their own institutions. And then we provided them mentorship, of course, as they were developing them. We had sessions where they could ask questions. And a lot of those were really good questions because citizen science is it's not something you can learn from a book, right? There's no specific way of how to do it or how not to do it. And of course, the participants kind of got the understanding of this right away. So the questions were rather interesting and very challenging for the mentors to answer at times, but they kind of got the thinking of how to proceed with a project idea further along. And then we wanted to make sure that people were kept motivated to continue with the development of the idea. So we decided to have the debates at the end where they could present the ideas, and the jury, which consisted from the speakers that originally presented on the first day, judged their ideas based on certain criteria, and we picked winners. We were essentially wanted to pick one winner, but in both events, we couldn't resist but pick 2 because the ideas were so interesting and so well developed that we couldn't resist the temptation. So of course, we went for 2 ideas. The names of the events were integrating citizen science at universities from how to what, and those were the first 2 events that we did. However, as the pandemic moved along, we realized there was quite a lot of Zoom fatigue from the participants, and we couldn't attempt a 3-day event like we did before with breaking down different elements into everyday activities because people were just too tired of doing things online to continue with this. So we switched it around a little bit, trying to still get to thinking and doing from a different perspective. So citizen science, why get involved, and why universities and libraries should get involved in citizen science was a different, were 2 events where we tried to approach it differently. We still have the presentations Every presentation in all of the 4 events was done by different presenters. So, and all of them are recorded and posted online if you ever want to have a look, because we thought it would be interesting to see a different take on things from different people participating in the working group on citizen science. And they were indeed quite interesting and quite different. But the presentations were followed by a choice given to the participants. They were given multiple examples of practical exercises, and they voted on which one to choose as the activity after the presentations. And an interesting thing happened. The first event, we had what is called where do you stand exercise, where usually you would be in a room, you would divide the room into parts, and you would say this is a yes group and this is a no group, and you would give them a challenge and statement where, which is not difficult to do with citizen science because there's no clear yes or no here and there. And they would have to spread according to what they thought their opinion on the statement was, whether they agreed on it and disagreed on it, and then discuss it. So we turned that into an online discussion where they could join the rooms different and do the same. They could discuss and back and present the positions that they had discussed before, and then give them a choice of whether they still want to change their opinion based on what others said or not. However, in the second event, the Q&A after the presentations was so vibrant and so interesting that we basically spent at least 45 minutes answering and asking questions and answering them. So in a way, that was also a way for participants to process the information. And we didn't even go with a bit more practical exercise, because as the Q&A was unfolding, that's exactly what they did. They expressed their opinions. They wanted to argue with each other. It wasn't, the questions weren't directed only at the speakers, but also at each other. And that created a very interesting atmosphere. It was also the event where we had over 60 participants online. So the amount of questions and comments that came from there was quite impressive. So we decided to let the participants decide their own fate and do what they thought was most beneficial for them, and that was the question and answer session. I realize that I have a slide presentation going along with this, so I'll get to it. So all of the activities, the 4 activities that I mentioned, took place from October 2020 to June 2021. So they were spread around rather equally. And they were created in the context of raising awareness about the citizen science and practices of citizen science at universities and libraries, the roles that these institutions play, how to get engaged in citizen science activities within these institutions. And we wanted to make sure that we did it not just with one university or one institution, but using the advantage of online events, we wanted to combine several. So what we did is we brought, for example, universities and research libraries from Serbia and Bulgaria together to discuss these issues. And the ideas for the projects benefited from that, because it wasn't just, oh, we have this we have this one problem locally and we want to address it. They had to discuss it between themselves and find common ground. And that forced the discussion to a bit of a different level, and also created the relationships between people who are very interested in pursuing citizen science ideas across the border. Methodology, as I said, we used expert lectures, group work, Q&A, and where do you stand? The main impacts, if I had to summarize, of course, different events had different dynamics. Even if the methodology we used was the same, they were quite different because the participants brought it to a different level by themselves. But if we have to summarize, the main impacts, I would say, was the increased interest and broader knowledge base on open and citizen science activities. In fact, we've been getting a lot of questions, and a lot of the people have been joining our events related to citizen science ever since. Some of them even joined the working group to kind of get more involved and bring that knowledge base back to their institution. Involvement of participants in citizen science activities in their institutions. One of the results of the larger event that we had, where we had people develop, participants develop project ideas and even thinking of implementing them in real life, was that they decided that they wanted to have funding for further exploring citizen science and developing their own activities, and they're now part of another Erasmus Plus project that deals exactly with that. Changing mindsets regarding knowledge accessibility, open innovation, social engagement, and the higher education role in society. That was one of the things that people coming in with open minds to these events. However, always having a bit of a preconceptions about what citizen science was or what it was not. And then I think the events had quite an impact on how they see that now. And of course, international collaboration and joint project development, as I mentioned. Some of the projects have not been brought back to life, but they've served as the basis for the development of other projects that participants are currently working on. So I think without further ado, I wanted to just give a shout out to the institutions that participated and helped us co-organize these activities. And these were Belgrade University, St. Cyril and Methodius National Library in Serbia, University of Library Studies and Information Technology in Bulgaria, Leuven University, Biblioteca Norberto Bobbio, and University College Dublin. So thanks a lot to our colleagues there who very patiently and developed the process with us, involved the participants and the such. And with this, I would like to conclude and if you have any questions, ask them in the chat and we'll get to them later. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Tatiana. Your next speaker would be Kai from Tallinn University. So, Kai, I'll leave you the floor.
Hello. Tallinn University is third largest university in Estonia. And we grew up from pedagogical university to the full university. And what is interesting maybe regarding doing this kind of novel learning practices, Tallinn University has been practicing now several years, I think 4 years already, interdisciplinary projects in which this is a project format that is supported by the university, where we put together different students from different curricula, and the topic has to be interdisciplinary, the teams have to be interdisciplinary, and they have to solve, usually they can raise the problems themselves, and often they are public customers who also have some problems that the students want to solve. But differently from University of Bordeaux, we don't have actually such a good spaces in which interaction could happen a long time. Such as we have laboratories, but they are not such open laboratories where you come in, walk in, and then you can do things. I want to present you 4 activities briefly that I did as part of the learning activities in which I was a course lecturer, and 2 of them are open knowledge activities and 2 are open innovation activities. So the first activity is a crowdsourcing activity, very like a traditional approach to what a citizen science is, but with more modern tools. So we have developed in Tallinn University the tracks of activity that you can embed different questions outdoors. How we explored this activity, our intention was that to engage the teacher education students into being active and understanding how they can use citizen science tools for creating citizen science activities for their students. So we wanted to shift the agency of students gradually so that they themselves create the activities in schools. You can see here we could do it outdoors with a real face-to-face situation. And it was so that I created first on outdoors in an area where a road was built, track with the question whether this area is perceived nice enough for walking, because there was a big debate in town about that. And I also I wanted to explore different kind of ways how interaction in this kind of outdoor track, interaction related with data can be created. So you can see down here how this map look like. Each of these points had, in each of these points, they had a different interaction in which they collected data. And this data were, sometimes they have to measure the noise level, but sometimes it was like doing pictures or having opinions. We also tried activities in which they had to do something such as measuring their speed in a certain area. I did it with 4 groups. So every group made the track better. And in the end, there were other teachers groups that tested it out with the students. So this shifting the agency was the main goal in this activity, rather than for me, this data that were collected. Although the system collects the data and this could be used for policy making, for example, telling to the town that no, this road was not well created, or yes, it is still fitting for the people. The second activity that I want to present you was a service design together with elderly people. So we are running courses in the Open Academy of Tallinn University, and we had a long-term course with representatives from elderly groups, in which we met with them several times, but we had different sessions, but one of the sessions was devoted to the design project. And unfortunately, we had to be there totally online. So you can imagine that for elderly people, there was also the difficulty in with all these new technologies, plus the difficulty about the concept, how to do it together. And but it went all very well. So I would say in this activity, what we explored is how we, the mentors from the university, can engage the external elderly groups into design thinking. And we used, in order to make it more simple, we decided that we use only one tool with them, not to move from one design thinking tool to another. And we also experienced that some of the tools, like a Miro, are perceived a bit too complicated for the elderly. So we use Trello. And you can see here one of these Trello boards. And so basically we did with them different design thinking canvases in order to help them to develop their ideas further. And in the end, 3 ideas were developed. One was the garage of elderly lonely men. One was about how to sustain a longer and happy work life for elderly. And one was about community collaboration and inclusion projects. So all of these projects, they continue now. So what they got from our activity was the prompt, how to formulate it, how to do it, and they are doing it really with us. And we are also continuing this course. Already now we have already the 3rd group is in the call, and the earlier groups have come to tell how they are doing. The problem, what we discovered is that the university does not have actually such a space where we can present the results. That if we do the design thinking activities or discussion activities, that there is no common place. that some other people could come and take a look at. Okay, I can use this and this knowledge. So this knowledge is open, but it is not at all open at the same time. That is one of the obstacles. And then the third activity I did with my master students in Andragogy. And again, we were using some of the digital tools that are available for embedding from the digital archives the cultural content into the nowadays, into the real interaction into the city. So I wanted to broaden their understanding that there are data, a lot of digitalized things in the, for example, we use the Museum of Theater and Music, and how they, as people who should activate different age groups, how they can bring this knowledge, this data out relevant ways. They created here, they designed in a step-by-step this idea, what kind of aspects are important when they start designing the track. And in the groups, they designed the different, like, they looked what kind of data is available, and they tried to embed this data with the digital tool on the tracks in the outdoors, and then they tested it out by themselves. Of course, since it was like a not so long-term activity, like through few lessons, the next step should have been that they test it out with the real audiences, with the real target groups that they have thought of. But I think that it was about the awareness of data and openness and not openness of the data that we actually have in digital archives, that the data are open, but you cannot actually pipe them out or share them so that people can interact with them nice ways. And the last activity is about values. It was done as part of the course that I was teaching in Open Society Technologies. In that course, it was like divided into the sessions, and it lasted throughout the fall of throughout one semester. And here we explored the method how to elicit the values that are embedded implicitly inside the socio-technical systems, how to bring them out step by step, and to see where the values actually are tied. Are they tied to the data? Are they tied to the algorithm? Are they tied to the interaction? How they create values through the interaction, and also values that extend into the society. So it was, and in the end, what they had to do, they had to design a new solution. Here you can see only some of the canvases that we developed specifically for INOS project. Here is a data canvas that can be used, and you can see some of the ways how we worked. We developed a method for eliciting values, so that we had some data sheets, and we had also a set of values, because people are not able to think of, okay, what are the values are, and they think of 2 or 3 values like fairness, openness, and some other. But if we start like looking, there are so many different values, and it helped very much to create different solutions. So if you are coming today at the knowledge, what is it called, knowledge workshop that Antoine is going to do, I am showing one of the cases from this values workshop as a teaser. So thank you very much. This is my end.
Thank you, Kai. And I leave the floor to Amalia for the last presentation.
Thanks. And you can hear me and you see the slides, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm presenting two open innovation activity actually that have been carried out here at Aalborg University by my former colleagues Elisha Teo and Evangelia Triantafillou. So the first one, and they, you know, we did many different activities, but these ones were particularly interesting and also diverse in terms of, you know, the duration also of the activities. So you already saw from the other presenters that we had activities that lasted a couple of days or one workshop, and activities that lasted instead the duration of a semester. So this is the time span I will talk about in these two different ones. So the first one is an hackathon that happened in November 2020. So we all remember very well, it was still, you know, lockdowns period, and carried out online. So in terms of, you know, learning spaces also, then we had, all of us, of course, to deal with these online and digital ways of interacting, also in, you know, formats that are thought to be very physical and live in places, let's say physical places. We had around 18 students and 2 mentors and also 4 jurors. And so these hackathons are, as you can see from the map here, are recurring events, first of all, that are here. And internationally, so there are in very different places all over the world. So DIGI EduHack are a series of hackathons that are trying to tackle digital education challenges worldwide, with the aim also to foster the co-creation of solutions that, of course, are answering real-life challenges in digital education. The outcome of these hackathons can be, you know, ideas and concepts, as we have seen also in other activities that have been already presented, or also ready to be developed applications. In the specific hackathon that happened in Copenhagen, the students were tackling, of course, the shifting from to the online teaching, right? And the hackathon was called the Great Online Pivot. And so the idea was to co-create with the students possible solutions to, you know, keep the learning activities engaged, or even engaging, or even to create other spaces that were needed context time-wise. So through the hackathon, of course, students coming from very different education could, you know, work together, and so and was considered formative by changing mindset concerning specifically collaborative work and innovation. So the students had to work together, collaborate, and think about innovative solutions, as I said. And this is also part, of course, of what we practice a lot at Aalborg universities, as at I could hear from Tallinn University, which are educations based on called the problem-based learning educations. So this way of working is very much in line with the way we teach at our university. So from a learning perspective, we could test and see framework let's say, and as a tool to co-design activities in order to, again, very much engage and keep the engaging and the high emotional level of commitment of the students during the 2 days hackathon. And here the mentors, of course, played a very important role in facilitating the activities, but also in sort of empowering the students in a sort of self-monitoring, which keeps them in a very pedagogical circle. We have been working a lot with hackathons throughout the project, and that was also a learning experience, since we found out that is, of course, a very replicable format, and that can produce actually also very, concrete outputs. At the end of these 2 days workshop, we had 5 artifacts that were produced. And actually, one of the artifacts produced was also, the idea was also taken up from another project that was working on similar challenges. The second activity is instead a semester project. And as I said, very much embedded in this problem-based learning way of working or learning space. It's what we called a mega project here at the university. So education's masters and bachelors as well semesters here are organized so that the students have to follow some courses for a total of 15 ECTS, and the other 15 ECTS they have to work for during the semester are project-based. But what usually happens is that the students are working within their boundaries of their master or bachelor education, so with their colleagues only. In these mega projects, instead, the idea is that students will collaborate across master's or bachelor's education. And so we want to, emphasize this cross-disciplinary way of working through this activity. And open innovation also in this specific example was also further incorporated by involving the UN Refugee Agency Copenhagen as an external expert. And the facilitators here, which you can see they were a little bit more, so there were still Alicia and Eva coming from our department, but then the students from techno-anthropology educations were also involved, with them also the supervisors or facilitators, in this case, Jorge and Petko. And they were the one also facilitating the contact between the UN agency and the students themselves. So they had a key role in supporting this collaboration. And shaping and fostering the online discussion, the resource sharing, and so on. So, as an outcome of this project, this collaboration, of course, as a learning, let's say, aspect related to it, it was very important that the student had the chance to work with the UN Refugee Agency and to see also, what does it mean to also shape a problem and address a problem according to their way of working. The students at the end produced prototypes and designed solutions for education for refugees, and the thematic were very diverse, from protection of their rights in working place, tackling instead challenges that they have in educations, or in relation to more broadly to the integration in a new hosting country. And the mega projects actually, so this collaboration across education is something that the university started to practice and continue to work on because of the big value that is seen in terms of, as I said again, interdisciplinary collaboration among education, and that foster also an innovative way of learning. Yes, so the overall, I would say that this is also something that you know, one of the outcome also of the project that was able also to show the importance of this kind of cross collaboration across education, and that actually now is embedded in the way of working of the university itself. So this mega project continues to be alive and work, which is a good, a very good outcome for us. And with this, I would conclude this poster session. I'll stop sharing. I know there were already some questions. I can see there was a question from Katerina. We have some time, right? Yes.
Yes.
If Katerina is still with us.
Yes, I had a question for Hélène, which seems to be as a project that brought together several institutions together, also from different countries, because at least Spain and France, two citizens science projects together. How did this practically work? And if you find any tensions of cross-institutional mismatch or things that you could improve in cross-institutional collaboration in the future?
Regarding the specific example I mentioned during my presentation, SNI3, hi Julieta, I know you're in the audience as well, if you want to complete my answer. The main difficulty with this kind of project is really to have a stable community. I mean, SNI3 is one of our it's an example of best practices, because we have a project team like who acts as a catalyst to make this community alive. We were talking about you know, to make alive learning spaces, but it's also about making a live community. And this project specifically, we use a lot of efforts to maintain these communities, because as I said before, they are social actors, they are students, they are teachers, but each time the students are different because it's like this in universities, and it's really a big effort. So that I would say if you can see that project and with an external point of view, it's like it's a very successful project, and it is actually, but we really have to make a lot of effort to maintain this community. And the fact is that it's on the shoulder of a project team, and I know that in an economic perspective, for instance, it's very difficult to have this community engagement work to do. So if I can say like just one thing about this project, and the main difficulty we have, it's really to maintain and to have a stable community. It is one of the issues we're going to discuss this afternoon during our workshop, actually, how to maintain this community. So I don't know, Julieta. No, okay, she's in the same place as me. But for sure, there are also the multicultural things, and the fact that it's something very rich, but it's also a difficulty. Like we try to use different languages during the workshop. Like, you know, the Basque countries, there was French, Spanish, but there's also Basque language. So it's all difficulty like to manage to use all these different languages. Thanks for the question, Katarina.
Thanks, Ellen, and thanks, Katerina. I don't see any other question.
If there are no questions, maybe we can, I don't know, we can thank everyone for attending the session. I mean, if you want to prolong the discussion, thanks, Julieta, for the the comment. If you want to prolong the session, do not hesitate to contact us, maybe, because there were a lot of different examples. So you met the different project leaders, and we would be delightful to answer the question if you have later. Maybe you can connect on social networks as well. And I know you have my email with the confirmation of registration, so I can act as a relay with my colleagues. So don't hesitate to connect. It's one of the objectives of this kind of event as well, to make connection, to exchange, to have discussions. And I will conclude maybe with the, sorry. No, you can't see my screen.
We can see your screen.
We can see. Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yep, we did.
So just the program. Yes, just a quick overview of the program of the afternoon. So we will be pleased to host you in different workshops and demo. Especially there will be a workshop on open science led by the University of Bordeaux at 2, another one led by the Oulu University about the integration of open science, citizen science activities into curricula. And then at 4, you can join 2 different demo sessions, one animated by Aalborg University about one of the tools we've been built during the INOS project, the Learning Design Framework, and another one a demo from Tallinn University about the guide of best practices on open knowledge activities. So don't hesitate to join. And then tonight at 6 p.m. We already talked about that, but you can join the Knowledge Cafe. The registration is still open. So about open data in all its forms, animated by the data activists. And finally, we'll meet tomorrow as well with some talks and a very interesting roundtable with some other European projects to talk about the social and innovative role of higher education institutions. So this session is also open to registrations as well. So don't hesitate to share the information, to invite your colleagues, and we'll be delightful to host you in every session. So thank you very much. I don't know, Amalia, if you want to add something, maybe.
I think you covered it all. So thanks for that. And thanks everyone for participating.
And just so you know, there's a link to register for the Knowledge Cafe in the chat. Please go ahead and do if you're interested. It's going to be very interesting.
I will put the link.
Yes. It's already there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. See you. Thank you very much.